welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 4, season 62 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series, as we're here for the second time this season under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Tonight, we will mark the halfway point of the regular season. The bracket challenge begins here tonight, and 3 different drivers have gone to victory lane to secure themselves playoff spots. Will we see a 4th here tonight? I'm Seth Cole, making his debut in the Flatout Racing Network studios here this evening, Mr. Zach Rogers. Zach, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Seth. Happy to be here, and we're probably in store for a really good race here at Talladega once again.
Now, as mentioned, 3 different drivers have gone to victory lane, so as long as they stay in the top 20 in points, they're fine. A lot of drivers have had good, consistent starts to the season, some back-to-back top 5s. I think 3 drivers have had top 10 finishes in the first 3 races, so they're kind of secure. But if you're a driver that's below that cut line of 12th in the standings, what are you looking for here tonight, knowing that there are 5 races, including this evening, left to be run? Are you gunning for that checkered flag, or are you looking maybe to just string some consistent finishes along?
You know, as I look at the point standings, the points are very tight, and with a full 40-car field, you can gain just as much as you can lose. So you want to be a little smart. You definitely want to get some top 5 finishes going consistently. At the very least, a win for sure would be great because, like you said, top 20 with that win, you are in the playoffs. So I feel like you've got to balance it depending where you are in the points. If you are down towards the bottom, you got to definitely get top 5s, go for a win. If you are around that top 20, top 12 window, I would say maybe play a little more smart and just try and get those consistent finishes because you can lose so much so fast. And there's only so many races.
And you talked about it too. You talk about losing so much so fast. You talked about the fact that it is a full 40-car field here tonight, so a lot of points are on the table that can be gained or lost. And with only 3 races under our belts here as well, points are still really close. So the matter of a top 5 finish can still gain you double digits in the point stands, and vice versa. If you have a DNF and finish outside of the top 30 here tonight in the finishing results, you could find yourself dropping that many spots in the point standings also.
Right, because you look at 20th right now is Richard Martin with 69 points, and you go down to Brian Lovell in 35th, and he's got 42 points. So that's 27 points right there. And then if you go from 20th of Richard Martin up to 12th of Glenn Harris, that's only 11 points.
Well, Robert Breedlove, who comes into tonight's race, currently situated and I just had his name and then I lost it. He is... Well, I'll find him here in a minute. He's your pole sitter, nonetheless, here on this 40-car grid. And he'll have Josh Metallic to his outside for the front row. Jerm Lewis trying to become the second Blue Angels car to go to victory lane here at this racetrack this season. Chris Emery got his first win of his career 2 weeks ago. He'll share row number 2 with Ulysses Sandoval, Wiley Coate, Terry Bombard. They're going to make up row number 3. Robbie Nisus and Richard Martin, the former champion, they're back in row 4. Bob Seminara and Randy Wall will be the completion of the top 10. Brian Lovell, he shares row 6 with Grant Wesley, Ron Hagelin, and the driver we just talked about, Chris Emery, the defending winner at this racetrack from 2 weeks ago. They're back in row 7. Row 8 is going to be Greg Palmer and Bobby Farrell. Row 9, Denny Carroll and Mike Mangialardi. And the top 20 will be completed by Rodney Sullins and Donnie Garrett. Back in row 11, you've got Jeff Crivello and Bob Dixon. Row 12, Glenn Harris, Chuck McClure. Joe DeSpirito and Jeremy Jeffries, a couple of former champions, will make up row number 13. Row 14, Jessica Shelton and Greg Lovell. Doug Kulick and Cy Jones will be the completion of row 15 at the top 30. Graham McDonald, he's back in the 16th row with last week's winner Brian Schilling, Bernie Mobbs, and Mark Paglia back in row 17. Row 18, Billy Elliser and John Godfrey. Milt Surratt, Tim Nofsker back in 37th and 38th. And completing the 40-car field tonight will be Brian Rawson and Tom Dixon. 66 laps of racing here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Race number 4 of season 62 is officially underway. Green flag over the hood of Robert Breedlove.
believe I saw Robert Breedlove is 43rd in points.
You are correct. He was grayed out and italicized. That's why. That's probably why my eyes didn't see it. The old man eyes strike again.
I had to look real close to see if that was really Breedlove there.
Breedlove with Jerm Lewis. Inside line, a little bit more prevalent here than it is at the counterpart Talladega that we were at last week and we'll be going to next week. That outside line, though, trying to battle back here. Good push from Ulysses Sandoval to Josh Metallic. They're going to be dead even through the trial, but Metallic might have the edge here when they come back to the stripe.
Yeah, it was a really good run there off of turn 4 for those two on the outside line. Starting to see a third line already going into turn 1 here on lap number 2. That is the 000 leading the line up there on the top.
That's Chris Emery 2 weeks ago, right here at this very racetrack. It's first win, he's in the wall. Denny Carroll as well.
Maybe.
Robbie Nice is up and over. I saw Jeremy Jeffries. I saw Bob Seminara. Rodney Sullen's all involved. Lap and a half in and already first caution of the evening, and it's a big one on the back straightaway.
A lot of cars. Robbie Nice has almost flipped right on over. He got sideswiped there. Have to see how that all transpired. It looked like it happened really quick off maybe a bumper grab.
Definitely was up in that third lane. Chris Emery was the car I saw into the wall. Maybe some bumper grab between him and Denny Carroll. We'll see in a moment with our replay here. Bunch of drivers that qualified towards the back here were able to get on the brakes. Looks like they might have waited for that wreck to play out. Biggest thing is we'll go back and see all the drivers involved that we've talked about here ever since they swapped over to this Aero 88 car back at the start of season 61. Is the damage model is a bit deceptive. It's hard to see who really got the worst out of a situation. We've had occasions where the front hood, the front bumper will be mangled and pushed up, but usually in a lot of these wrecks you don't see any visible damage that looks like that car is not going to be up to speed for the remainder of the race. You have to kind of wait until we go back green to let it all play out.
Yeah, I'm seeing here, it looks like the 54 got tight, comes up into the 712 on exit, and he gets him a little wiggly, and that was all it took. Put him right up into Chris Emery, and away they went.
Robbie Nice is up on two wheels. Fortunately, that car came back down. Jeff Crivello in the middle of that. Jessica Shelton facing the wrong way. Mike Mangialardi, Ron Hagelin. Looked like they got bits and pieces of that.
See Bobby Farrell spinning out to the inside.
These drivers had just gotten themselves up to full song. They were midway through the second lap of this race. Hard to tell if anybody's going to have damage that will absolutely take them out of this race. Maybe
Chuck McClure did a really good job missing this. He slowed all the way up, went down to the apron, and just went all the way down, just kind of cruising at pit speed, and he was able to get through this clean. A lot of drivers that were riding at the back there did a great job slowing down and avoiding getting involved.
Saw last week's winner, Brian Schilling, who didn't get the benefit of the random qualifying draw of a good starting position, was able to get on the brakes pretty quick. So multi-car incident here, bringing out the first caution of the night. Usually when we have these early yellows, it doesn't play a whole lot into fuel strategy. When these drivers take the green flag, they know they're going to have to make at least 3 trips to pit road. Puts them about maybe 6 laps short of the finish. This doesn't necessarily make any difference in that, but we usually do end up having some strategy where some of the leaders will elect to come to pit road here, top off the fuel tank in case we go into a long green flag run. Others that, especially qualified mid-pack rear of the field, they want that track position, so they'll stay out.
Yeah, the big thing you want to think about here is, as it's lap 4 of 66. So as you said, the fuel window is 18 to maybe 20 laps. The big thing to consider if you're going to top off here is if if by chance the race goes green all the way to the finish, if you top off here, you will only need to take potentially a splash on your third and final green flag pit stop, if at all, as compared to what would be a half a can, and that would save you about 3 seconds,
And
which
I'd have to go
would be
back, but
pretty big.
I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure we've had races where we've had not only long green flag runs, but we've had caution-free races, and I think statistically, at least to my immediate knowledge, this is the racetrack where a lot of those, the majority of those caution-free races have taken place. So to your point, yeah, never too early to start thinking about that final pit stop and what kind of an advantage you can gain on it.
Right, because and then even if you're still showing short by a lap, you might be able to still make it to the line running out coming off of turn 4. So there's that to consider because of the way the game factors in fuel. It doesn't account for you. I believe it accounts for you having like enough for a cooldown lap or something of the like. So you don't have to really worry about that extra lap. You don't need that extra lap. I might be mistaken on that, but I believe it kind of factors like that.
Well, different drivers, different situations in points. Staying out, getting those bonus points for a lap led could be very important when we get to the regular season finale. Ulysses Sandoval, who is 26th in the point standings coming to this one, stayed out, got a bonus point for a lap led. Terry Bombard, 9th in points, stayed out and led that previous lap. Looks like he's coming to pit road, and that'll turn the race lead back over to our pole sitter, Robert Breedlove. We'll take the opportunity here under this first caution period to bring you up to speed on the series within the series, if you will. Drivers look forward just as much to this as they do the regular season itself. It's the bracket series kicking off tonight, and the top 20, I believe it's, or actually, correction, the top 32 drivers in point standings all get shuffled into the bracket challenge. Matchups tonight: Grant Wesley taking on John Godfrey. That's the number 1 seed against the number 32 seed, if you will, as far as the positioning in points. Bobby Farrell going up against Josh Metallic. Jeremy Jeffries is taking on Kelly Causey. Terry Bombard, who we just saw come to pit road, he's going up against Greg Palmer. Chuck McClure against Billy Elliser. Rodney Sullins up against Richard Martin. Chris Emery, former winner on the season, taking on Craig Hagley. Glenn Harris and Bob Seminara, they're squaring off here tonight. How about this matchup? A couple of former champs, Brian Schilling and Joe DeSpirito. That's going to be a good one to keep an eye on this evening. Randy Waz going up against Mark Paglia. Jessica Shelton versus against Ulysses Sandoval. Ron Hagelin taking on Mike Mangialardi. Bernie Mobbs against Milt Surratt. Denny Carroll and Cy Jones facing off. Tim Knopfsker against Brian Rawson. And Graham McDonald against Donnie Garrett. And, you know, a lot of people probably wondering, well, why is this bracket series so important? We talked to drivers all during the course of the second half of the regular season, and we'll ask them, you were running up inside of the top 5, had a chance for the win. Did you have a chance? Were you thinking about making a move there? And they say, no, I was actually looking for my bracket challenge person, trying to make sure I was ahead of them to move on to the next round. A lot of emphasis goes into that bracket challenge for these drivers during the course of the season.
We had I believe about 10 or so drivers pit there to top off on gas with what'll be 60 to go here on the restart.
So right on the number, maybe?
It would be very close. I believe, depending how they save fuel, if it were to go green from here, they would potentially be able to make it on just 2 green flag pit stops. It would be really close.
See if it plays out here. Of course, any future yellows will kind of muddy the waters in terms of strategy, but we'll see if maybe the flagman is done for the night until he has to wave the white flag. He's got the green flag back in hand, and he will get us back underway with Robert Breedlove and Randy Waugh, your front row here. Richard Martin, the drafting help on the bottom. Josh Metallic, the drafting help up on the top side.
And it's definitely not something even we will really think to talk about as there is still 60 laps to go, but it is fun to think about it, at least in the moment as the strategy occurs, because you never know. It could go green or it might not go green.
And I guarantee you there's a number of drivers that are already thinking ahead to that as well. I don't think you're the only one. As dead even off of turn 4 there between Randy Waugh and Robert Breedlove. Update on that wreck there in the back straightaway. Everybody involved came to pit road, made damage repairs, returned to the track. All 40 cars took the green flag to start this race, took the green for that restart. We'll have to wait and see a couple of laps here if everybody's up to full song. I believe the 54 of Robbie Nices has already
Yes.
lost the draft. A couple of others back there. Jeff Crivello, Brian Ross, and Jerm Lewis. I don't know if they're just kind of hanging back there or if they might be in danger of losing this lead pack as well.
Yeah, it looks like Robbie Nices in the 54 is definitely driving a bit of a wounded duck right now, but that could be a blessing in disguise. If we see more accidents occur, he will be able to miss them very easily.
See this middle line prevailing for the time being, but we've seen here in the past if a third lane starts to form and if they can get up alongside, that's going to bring the advantage into the low side, which now is being led by the 0 of Greg Lovell. Greg making his first start on the season here tonight. Would love to be able to pick up a checkered flag. He's got drafting help from the 931 of Robert Breedlove, but they're side by side back there around the 7th, 8th position as the top 6 cars in that middle line have gotten themselves cleared back to Chuck McClure, and I believe that is, was that Mark Paglia right behind him, along with the 043 of Brian Lovell.
Saw Brian Schillen trying to lead a third line. It kind of fizzled out. It looks like they might be trying it again, but they are just not doing a good job of getting organized right now. I believe that was Tim Nofsker in the 088 there, jumped up with Brian, and then someone from the bottom jumped up to the middle there, and it all kind of fizzled out again. I think they're going to have to try and get back in the middle, follow the middle line, and try to get organized to where they can all jump up together, because right now at the middle of the field, it looks like a bunch of just lane changing going on.
Brian Schilling coming off that victory last week at Talladega Superspeedway, locking himself into the playoffs, but now that he's got that victory under his belt, he's looking for those extra bonus points at the end of the regular season as the regular season champion comes into tonight's race only 2 points behind Grant Wesley for the overall points lead. Bernie Moms 11 points out in third. Chuck McClure currently fourth, 13 points out, and Chris Emery 18 points out. Our 3 previous winners all up inside of the top 12 in the point standings. Again, the criteria for making the playoffs, you have to be in the top 12 in the point standings or have a victory inside of the top 20 in points. So currently, only 12 drivers would advance. We usually see a winner or two fall outside of the top 12 and get 13 or 14 playoff contenders by the time we get to the eve of the playoffs. But as of right now, all 3 of our previous winners up inside of the top 12 in overall standings as Randy Waugh looking good out in front here in that number 21 machine. He's one of those drivers just on the bubble, just outside of the cut line. 15th in overall points coming to this one. 3 points below that cut line currently held by the 8 of Glenn Harris.
That third line starting to form. Brian Schillen had Milt Surratt in the 80 jump up in front of him, and now Ulysses Sandoval is jumped up to the top as well. I believe I just butchered that once again, but they are getting some big help there on that top line, and they are starting to form up.
It's like Milt Surratt's up there, Brian Schilling in the 4, Billy Elliser in the 26. There's so much checkup that takes place on the inside and middle line when you have a lot of drivers all nose to tail like you see here, and that usually gives the advantage to not necessarily a big number of cars. You could have 4 or 5 really fast cars up there in that third line, and they can make up hay because they don't have to worry about checking up. They can keep the throttle mashed and keep that forward momentum going. But now things really breaking up again there, back around that 8th, 9th position. It seems like as soon as that third line gets some momentum, I don't know if they stall out or if the middle line dissipates so there's nobody for them to be able to get momentum against, but all of a sudden the third lane has dropped down there into the second half of this middle lane.
Yeah, it looks like, I think you nailed it on the head. It looks like the middle lane gets suffocated out by the top, and then the top just runs out of cars to pull back, and it allows the leaders in the middle to pull away, and then the top falls right back to the middle, and then they've got to set up again. But there is definitely a huge checkup. You could see it from about 7th, 8th car back when the middle is all lined up. It really starts to accordion, and that allows that outside to get the big run to move forward. But seeing a lot of that, just like they get to a certain point and then they just kind of stall out.
It's like Mike Mangialardi has lost the lead pack. That's one of the tough things about this particular racetrack is you can have a car that's up to full speed, but if you don't have somebody behind you and you're that last car in line, you do have a good chance that you might end up losing touch with the draft and have to rely on a caution to catch back up. Next driver at the tail end of the pack right now would be Denny Carroll. He's tucked up right to the back bumper of, I believe that was Rodney Sullivan's back there, so I think for the time being, he's safe to stay up in this lead draft. As that third line you were talking about, here they come, and drivers are noticing the momentum they've got. Brian Lovell just jumped up there. Greg Palmer going to do the same. Josh Metallic might be on a little bit of an island of his own behind Randy Waugh because he's got Garrett to his left, Palmer to his right. 3 wide around the third position. This might be for the lead off of turn 2.
Really big run there from the top side. Poland even now looking to inch ahead of the bottom as the middle just completely got sucked down the vacuum there. We have lost Bobby Farrell. He has fallen out of the server.
Saw he had fallen out of TeamSpeak, was trying to look for the powder blue 92, see if the same had translated over to the NR server. So if he's able to connect back in, he would be in the lucky dog position if we were to get a yellow flag, but it doesn't look like that has happened just yet. Palmer, who is up there leading that third line now, he gets shuffled into the middle. Brian Lovell moves up to the top with Ulysses Sandoval, but we talked about this before we came on the air, the fact that when that third line starts to form, it stalls out the middle line, and then the inside line gets the advantage. Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure, looks like Richard Martin, and Grant Wesley all going to have themselves, it looks like maybe clear her going into turn 3. As Brian Lovell trying to draw alongside the Gatorade number 88 of Wesley.
And I saw it right there with Palmer. I watched it as he got left in the middle, and it's like a concrete slab gets just tied up to the back of the car. I mean, the car slows down instantly. He lost probably about 15 positions, I think. But it looks like the bottom where he filed in line is now becoming that superior line again, and he's getting a lot of those positions back. Oh, we got a spinner in turn 2.
And the caution is out. Ooh, big hit there. A couple more involved. Oh, John Godfrey, Cy Jones up and over.
He's turtled.
Yes,
oh,
he is.
Maybe not.
Nope,
They're
back on
all
his
four.
wheels. Tom Dixon there in the 45.
That's unfortunate. I think he just called it a night.
Bob Dixon, Milt Surratt involved in this as well. John Godfrey going to be the first retiree of the evening, and this is a huge break for Robbie Nices.
There was a huge checkup right in the turn 1.
Robbie Nices was literally a half a lap away from getting put a lap down, so this caution saved him. And I believe Bobby Farrell has connected back into the server, so he would be in the free pass position. He should be able to get back on the lead lap, I do believe. We'll take it back here to 1 and 2.
So it looks like this started with Glenn Harris. Glenn Harris was checking up for cars in front of him. And then Randy Waugh is going to get into Bernie Mobs, and there's a bit of scattering that goes on here.
They almost had that saved.
Yeah, Milt had it saved. Oh, wow. And he goes to come back up the track, and he just barely clips John Godfrey there. Just barely clipped him coming back up the track, and it kicked that all off.
There's that slight contact to the left rear quarter panel. Back up the track there for Milt Surratt, and then Cy Jones makes contact with Bob Dixon. That projects the 7 up into the same path as the 7-Eleven and flips Godfrey over. And Godfrey's car comes to rest on all four wheels, but as we saw there live, he then immediately parked the race car, and he will finish in the 40th position here this evening. As mentioned, a lot of points up for grabs here tonight to either gain or lose, and Godfrey, who came into this race 30th in points, had a great run last week at Talladega Superspeedway after he was unfortunately not able to take part the week before. When we were here previously at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, we documented the rush to the emergency room just prior to the green flag for that for him. Was able to make up a lot of ground last week and more than likely is going to lose it back here this week with the DNF.
So we are on lap 19. We got 4 drivers that have elected to stay out here, potentially trying to get a lap led. Do they do bonus points for leading a lap,
Yes,
Seth?
they do. Yep.
Okay, so very smart here. I believe we're not really in a fuel window right now with where this caution fell.
Just theoretically where we would have made a pit stop if we had gone green since the start.
Correct. And then if we hadn't had that caution there, I believe they would have been pitting in about a couple laps from now, lap 22 or so, maybe lap 21. So with where they're at, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. There might be a potential to save half a can here if they were to go green from here, because they'd be looking at, I believe it'll be 44 to go restart potentially. So they might be able to shave it from a can to half a can, if I got my math right. Yeah, I believe that would be the optimal strategy play here, would be trying to take the fuel down from a can to half a can with pitting around what would be like 9 to 7 to go. 9, 7, 6 to go, something like that.
Got second driver out of the race. Milt Surratt in the 80 car came down pit road, pulled into his pit stall, and it looks like he is done for the night. So he'll join Godfrey in the garage area. Surratt will get credited for 39th, Godfrey in 40th. Saw Bobby Farrell come down pit road. He is the lucky dog. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to be back on the lead lap, since he lost, I believe it was 5 laps during the span of falling out of the server and returning back. If he is put back on the lead lap, that probably won't happen until after we go back green, since you're not able to add the laps back under a caution period. He will come up alongside of the rusty little tribute pace car, and he will go around, get one of those laps back here before we go green. We'll keep you updated on whether or not the rest of the laps he is lacking are added back manually, or if he is going to have to get those back the hard way or future lucky dog positions, but we won't know that until about a couple laps probably after we go back green. Donnie Garrett, Chuck McClure going to be the front row when we go back racing. Grant Wesley, Richard Martin, and Wiley Coate looks like going to be the top 5.
Just looking at Surratt's impact in that accident there, he got pushed into Godfrey. Then he bounced off of Godfrey up into the outside wall with the front end. And then when the car spun back down the track, he got hit in the passenger door by the 45 of Tom Dixon. Not a lot of heavy impacts aside from the front end damage, but considering CTS physics, aero damage is everything here. And that can really make or break a race, even if it's not a ton of aerodynamic damage.
I mean, we even saw there on that last run, drivers that were up to full speed, if they were at the tail end of the pack, having difficulty staying up with the lead group. So yeah, if you've got aero damage, that's not a good thing, especially if you don't have somebody to help push you to maybe keep you up in the lead pack. So a tough break there for Milt Surratt. Milt came into this race also 30th in the point standings. There was a 3-way tie for 30th coming into this race. Joe DeSpirito, the only one of those 3 still in this race. Godfrey and Surratt, both behind the wall, the first 2 retirees from tonight's event. Should get the 1 to green this time, I think. Lights are indeed out. Yep. Bobby Farrell is staying at the tail end of the pack here rather than coming up and getting one of his laps back. So not certain if he's just been told to EOL and then they'll add the laps back manual and we go back green here. We'll keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the scoreboard. See if he has the laps down decrease. Actually, looks like Scorian's got him 6 laps down now. So we'll look and see if he ends up getting put back on the lead lap. Maybe gets put to -1. We'll see what the scenario is once we get back green flag racing. And you were talking about, that strategy, Zach, of maybe getting yourself down to a half can for that final pit stop. We're already seeing the
Not
fuel
a
strategy
lot.
games here in terms of a lot of drivers clutching.
Yeah, seeing a lot of clutching, but not a lot of drivers opt at the top off here coming to the 1 to green. We've got Greg Lovell, Crivello in the 36, Robbie Nices, who we know is damaged, and Brian Rawson in the 6. So only a handful of drivers topped it off there. With what'll be 44 to go, those 3 could potentially be able to take half a can, but if a lot of drivers are clutching, those drivers also could potentially only need a half a can towards the end of the race. I believe the window would be about 5 to 8 to go on that, what would be that final pit stop.
Well, so far this season, we've had some kind of interesting storylines. If you look at Talladega Superspeedway, it's catered to the former champions. Defending champion Jeremy Jeffries and former champion Brian Schilling have gone to victory lane. Last time here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, it was a first-time winner in Chris Emery, and we've seen first-time winners here in the past. I think back to that race that ended under caution. Doug Hewlick, all he had to do was make 100 feet leaving pit road, get back to the start-finish line to pick up his first career win. You talk about some of those drivers that came down and topped off back there, like a Cy Jones or a Brian Rawson or a Greg Lovell. We might have seen another first-time winner here tonight, depending on how things play out. But at the front, it's the 77 and the 17, Donnie Garrett and Chuck McClure, who are going to get us back underway. Third of the way through this race as lap 22 goes up on the board.
This Jeremy Jeffries is towards the midfield right now, but Jeffries won the 2 races prior to Chris Emery's win back in season 61. He won the last 2 races here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You go back before that, you've got Kelly Causey, Chuck McClure, Joe Disparito, Josh Metallic, and Dante Ricky were our winners here at this track last season.
Yeah, I remember a couple of seasons ago, we obviously visit each racetrack every other week, and there was a span where Jeremy Jeffries won 3 races in a row here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. He loves this racetrack. Richard Martin in the 43 now leading that inside line. Of course, we know we've talked with Richard Martin beginning of this season. He's already got a championship back in season 60 when he won a championship without winning a race, and now he's looking for checkered flags. It's been a long time since he's been to victory lane. He's got the championship. Now he wants to get back to winning races, and comes into this race currently situated 20th in points. Been a bit of an up and down season for the former champ, trying to get some consistency here. He's got Wiley Coate right behind him. Tony the Tiger helping push him on that inside line.
That is a beautiful number 5 scheme. I totally don't hold any bias for running a similar scheme myself.
No. And the number. No bias towards the number either.
I had a bit of a moment there going into turn 1. He got really tight on the bottom, and he almost got into the, I don't know, a lot of car numbers. That was Robert Breedlove. He almost got up into there going in the 1.
Yeah, 931, the Hell's Kitchen machine.
It's funny.
Position.
What's funny is you usually, you only have to learn like maybe 15, 20 names at a lot of leagues, but here tonight I have to learn 40 of them.
Got to have that extra, 5 seconds to be able to look down at the driver's sheet. It's like the top 7 have gotten themselves single filed out. Back to Chris Emery. Richard Martin and Robert Breedlove now up in the third lane. Brian Lovell in the middle. Wiley Coate on the bottom with Tim Nofsker trying to make something happen.
I see Jessica Shelton, who was in that first accident, has made her way up here into the top 20, top 15, following on that outside line. Seeing the drivers kind of just avoiding the middle now, it looks like they'd rather just either run the bottom or run up in that top line. They're leaving a bit of a hole there in the middle in case maybe they might want to make a move from the top.
Do you think that's also kind of in reaction, maybe a prior reaction to if there's checkup in that middle line, so that way you're not involved in the stack up, you have an exit route?
Yeah, and could also be giving room to the bottom, considering we saw Wiley Coate, he kind of got tight going into one. So in case someone on the bottom gets tight and they have to slide up a bit, they have that space, and therefore everyone avoids an accident.
Yeah, we talk about the drivers on the inside off of turn 2 at Talladega getting really tight and pushing up. It's not nearly as prevalent here at BSR, but it still definitely happens. So, yeah, good point there is Ulysses Sandoval trying to lead that inside line now against 4th place Greg Palmer. Now Sandoval will move back up to the middle line, tuck into the 5th position ahead of Robert Breedlove. Josh Metallic there in that 39 leading the inside line now. Former winner on the week as he went to victory lane, I believe it was Tuesday night in the Speed Freak series. Or no, I'm sorry, correction. It was last night in the Lightning Truck series.
My brain had to do a little processing for a moment because when you said BSR, I thought of the league, not the track that we're at. It looks like Bobby Farrell is getting laps back slowly but surely. He is down to 1 lap down now. Let's see if they give him that final lap back. About a lap ago, he was at 3 down. So it looks like he's getting all his laps back here. He's currently showing 1 down, so we'll have to see if they give him that last lap back here on a straightaway.
Yeah, about out of the server, lost 6 laps. Would have, I believe, been eligible for the free pass. So, yeah, we should, I think, see him back on the lead lap here momentarily.
He's couple drivers
at the tail end of the pack, it looks like.
Got a couple drivers that have lost the pack. Bob Dixon, Brian Rawson. Crivello is holding on for dear life right now. And, of course, Robbie in the 54 way back there.
Now, Bob Dixon, he made contact with Cy Jones on that last wreck off of turn 2. I didn't see him make hard enough contact. It looked like he would have been off the pace. And Brian Rawson's a bit of a mystery there because he was one of those drivers, I think you documented, came down at the 1 degree to top off. I don't remember seeing him in anything that would have had him off the pace either. Sometimes it just comes down to a stack up and losing momentum and losing the draft as well. So those cars might actually be up to speed, just didn't have the benefit of staying up in this lead pack.
Taking another look at Bob Dixon's involvement in the previous caution, he slammed the outside wall with the driver's side door and got some heavy back end damage. See, Rawson was not involved in that accident.
Right now, he and Bob Dixon, scoring's got them about nearly 17 seconds behind the race leader.
It appears Rawson got stuck behind Robbie in the 54 on the restart, and that cost him the draft.
Yep, that'll do it.
As for Bob, it looks like it was just the slow case of losing touch.
Bob Dixon, we know that usually when we end up having a cycle of green flag pit stops, he's one of the first ones to make the dive onto pit road. We'll see if he stays with that strategy. If we do end up reaching the precipice of a green flag pit stop, you kind of wonder if he might want to change that strategy up here, run as long as he can, just in case maybe he catches a yellow flag if something happens with drivers coming to pit road, or will he make the early dive onto pit lane? We'll keep tabs on that here as Donnie Garrett continues to show the way. 30 laps in, he's led 13 laps, and the last time by, he actually ran his fastest lap of the race at a 47.862. Kind of surprising
Shelton
being the leader that he actually just ran his fastest lap.
Yeah, that is quite surprising. I keep trying to get words in, so I'm sorry if I cut you off or
No, you're
whatnot.
good.
Jessica Shelton, we saw just jumped to the bottom from ninth, and it looks like not much draft support there. But I think, you get so many cars out running the middle, running in line. We talk about the accordion. Eventually, you see that accordion and you see it coming at you really quick, and you're like, to the bottom I go, because I'd rather just kind of carry some momentum instead of having to almost hit the brakes at that point. Then you're afraid of getting wrecked.
And you saw with their side by side with Graham McDonald, it kind of separated them from this top 9. Jeremy Jeffries making a move to the inside of Brian Lovell. Looks back in his rearview mirror. There was nobody there to be able to offer the drafting. Now he's still well, I thought he was. Now he's tucking back in line. He was doing a pretty good job of staying in touch there with Lovell. Now Graham McDonald swings around his outside. I think we're going to see, though, more and more drivers going down to the bottom. Maybe not necessarily of making a move to advance their position, but as we draw closer to green flag pit stops, everybody's going to want that easier access onto pit road. Jeremy Jeffries again moving down there to the bottom on Graham McDonald. Kind of remind me of kind of a Chase Elliott move back in the day where he would do the side draft on every car and try and leapfrog
the side draft
them.
hop.
Yeah,
back when they used to hop, when they would hop 1 or 2 positions a corner, when they used to just ride the wall. Got to give Jeremy some credit. He restarted, I believe, 23rd, and he's made his way into the top 10. And he's still trying to move forward.
And he's got the luxury, too, right, of being able to experiment like that, because he's got a victory back in the season opener. He knows that as long as he stays in the top 20 in points, he's going playoff racing to defend his championship from season 61. So, why not try out some stuff? Because if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this is going to be the venue where not only the regular season finale takes place, but the season finale itself, where the championship hangs in the balance, the second of the 2 races in that final round. So, why not do a little experimentation right here in the midway portion of the regular season?
All right, so we are halfway, and we are closing in rapidly on the first official green flag cycle pit stop of the race. You've seen everyone jump to the bottom line, just running next to that yellow line. Gotta figure, I believe some cars will start coming in here, maybe this time by, if not the next time by. I believe that previous caution was lap 17, so I believe everyone pit on 18, maybe 19. So I think in the next 3-4 laps, we should see people start jumping on down pit road.
I think we went back green on lap 22, so yep.
Unless we jinxed it. We might have jinxed it. I see someone twitching there on the bottom.
That's Despirito. Nope, commentator's curse. Stay away.
Yeah, he's doing the little shaky leg. That makes me nervous if I'm in the middle of the pack right there.
And what a difference a season makes. Joe Despirito, one of our big stories last year was him constantly continuing on that top 5 streak. Never finished outside of the top 5 the entirety of the regular season, and then this season tied for 30th in points. Now, granted, he did miss 1 or 2 races. He had an excuse. Man was getting married on his honeymoon in Italy, so I think it's a good enough reason for him to abandon trying to have the streak here in season 62. But kind of playing a little bit of catch up right now as the multi-time former champion of the series.
You just mentioned 30th in points again, and our other 2 drivers that were tied for 30th coming in have retired for tonight. So seeing that 24 do the twitch makes me wonder if 30th place in points is the bad luck points position for tonight's race.
You wonder if that's like the number 7 or the 13 kind of thing going on there.
30th in points.
What's the numerology history of the number 30? I don't know.
Well, Richard Childress Racing ran it for maybe a couple of years, and then I don't think I've seen the number in a long time since.
Yeah, there was. I remember hearing not too long ago. That 30 car one season had, I think it was 6 or 7 different drivers behind the wheel. Nobody was able to hold on to that ride for a good portion of the season. So, maybe that's a little prior indication of what the number 30 means in the racing world. I don't know.
Brian
Swan
Rawson
Racing went
is
bankrupt
on
and they had
road.
the 30.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Brian Rawson's on pit road, which is a little early for him. He's coming out now. Cy Jones is Cy Jones is about to lose the draft here. See if they might pit this time, though. It's lap 37. This be 18 laps, I believe, right here.
I think I'm seeing some more radios lighting up. Don't know if it's necessarily for drivers coming to pit road this lap or not. Yep, Cy Jones coming in. Tom Dixon, the Batmobile, coming in. He had the misfortune, if you will, of that very last pit stall, rolled off the grid from 40th position. A lot of drivers love having those pit stops up closer towards the exit of pit road because it gives them the opportunity to be able to hot pit. You got to slow those cars down very quickly if you have a pit stall back towards the entrance of pit road.
The 111's going to pit this time by. So far, that's the only radio I'm seeing get lit up here on the public channel.
Haglin's back outside the top.
Oh, Donnie
25.
Garrett's coming in.
Yep, leader's in. Robert Breedlove coming in as well. One of the Blue Angels cars back there. I can't tell which one that is. Might be Jerm Lewis in the 616.
Ron Hagelin was flying in there.
Hey, you can
Mike
enter pit road fast as long as you're on the brakes and don't release that brake until you're at 55 miles per hour. A lot of these drivers have it down to a science, but that doesn't necessarily mean they can't make a mistake. You don't want, the way this thing is trending right now, you don't want to make that mistake because you may not be able to get that track position back.
Seeing a lot of people saying they're coming in this time, including Sexy Sandoval there in the 096.
Or No Limbs Sandoval after last week's second airborne trip to the catch fence at Talladega.
All right, here we go. It's going to get crazy.
Remember, too, if an incident takes place down here, it may not necessarily bring out a yellow.
Greg Palmer locking up the brakes there.
Little bump to Grant Wesley. Hopefully that didn't shoot him over 55 miles per hour.
Yeah, because you can, if you stay on the brakes, Seth, you won't get flagged. But if someone bumps you, that deceleration goes away, and usually you get nailed, like, immediately.
I wasn't able to count exactly how many cars came to pit road there, but that was pretty orderly. I didn't see much there that looked like it was nerve-wracking. Of course, I'm up here in the booth. I'm not down there behind the wheel of these cars. I think a couple of those drivers probably felt a little squeamish with everything happening there.
Well, we only had 5 cars stay out, and I believe all 5 of them are coming in. Josh Metallic, Greg Lovell, Tom Nofsker, Denny Carroll, and Wild Coat coming on in.
So this will complete the first round of green flag pit stops here tonight. Now the question is who's going to cycle back to the front. We're looking here at Grant Wesley, Chuck McClure, Greg Palmer. They were some of the leaders of that big pack that came to pit road the lap prior. You have to think they're going to obviously be in the conversation of cycling to the front. It all depends on some of those drivers of that group of 5 that came to pit road the lap after they did.
Donnie Garrett, who pit first, lost, I believe, about 7 or so positions here, if not more.
Bob Dixon's going to go a lap down here. Ryan Rawson as well.
Those last 4 that stayed out, they are not going to be with the main pack at all here. They're going to fly right on by. Looks like maybe a 5 or 6 car main pack here at the front, and then a big train of cars behind them.
You talked about Jeremy Jeffries working his way up through the field there on that previous restart prior to the green flag pit stops. Now he has cycled around to the 5th position. So a great job for him. He had a pit stall right in the middle of pit lane. Qualified, I believe it was 26th or 27th for this race. So he was part of that big group of cars that came down pit road. Wouldn't have had necessarily a very easy entrance nor exit off of pit road, but did a great job there. And look who's right in front of him. Chris Emery in that 000, looking for magic to strike twice here in season 62 at this racetrack. Looking for career win number 2. Great job by him again here tonight to be up in the conversation. Oh, and as soon as I say that, my telemetry is showing me the 000 has a black flag for speeding. And he's coming down to serve it. Oh, tough break there for Chris Emery. Granted, he's got that victory from 2 weeks ago. He knows that as long as he stays in the top 20, he's going playoff racing, but man, had himself up there in the top 5 after this cycle and going to have to serve the pass-through. Now he's going to have to rely on a yellow to get him back up into this hunt.
I believe that second pack is going to catch here because DeSpirito closed about 0.3 of a second that time by, and I think they're getting the draft off of, I believe that's Bob Dixon. So that should help them tremendously catch this pack. I was just looking at our top 4 and where they sit in the point standings, and all of these drivers are top 10 in the points. So this is a huge opportunity to get another big top 5 finish and help expand the cushion in the top 12 in points and get these guys potentially locked in or in a very comfortable position when they go into the final race before the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a great point because, yeah, a lot of drivers, when they start out the season, a lot of them will put the emphasis on the win to lock themselves in, but a lot of them will put the emphasis on the consistency to your point. If not as late as the regular season finale, even maybe a couple of races prior, have themselves mathematically ineligible of falling out of the top 12 in points, and gives them a little freedom to be a little bit more aggressive, see if they can get some more bonus points via a win in the final couple of races of the season. Grant Wesley, I remember back a couple of seasons ago, went winless, the 3-time champion, but he has been the most consistent driver, obviously, here this season. Not yet been able to pick up the checkered flag. He's the overall regular season points leader. He started out the year with 3 straight top 10 finishes, but obviously one of the best in this series when it comes to execution on pit road, maximizing the speed, gaining the track position, and out in front showing the way in this one. I have to wonder, though, when we saw that big group of drivers come down pit road and then we saw that group of 5 come down pit road the lap after, is there enough in it where that group of 5 have an advantage on potentially the final pit stop of the night if it's under green?
They might. That one light might be enough to where they could risk taking half a can and make it. That was a big block there by Wesley and Chuck McClure on the 24, and they got really lucky. That was right going into the trial. Yeah, it's going to be close because that was with 26 to go when they came out of pit road. So they're going to have to go 20 laps here for sure. If they only go 19, they're going to have to take a can.
As you said, that second pack was reeling in the first pack, and all of a sudden what was only a group of about 4 lead lap cars in the lap machine of Brian Rawson has turned into a thundering 17-car pack. Joe DeSpirito now up into second, Jessica Shelton into third, Mark Paglia's up here, Brian Lovell, Terry Bombard, Ron Hagelin, a lot of new faces up here in the conversation once again. Greg Palmer, Josh Metallic trying to make a third line work up there, along with Tim Nofsker and Brian Schilling. Grant Wesley going to have a lot of lanes he's going to have to keep an eye on in terms of where the momentum's coming from, as that 24 side to side is still not settled out. It's still happening there.
Seth, the lap cars in front of the leaders just went 3 wide off of turn 2 for a very split second.
Hey, it's the battle for the 2 lucky dog positions. I mean, you gotta get yourself in the right slot just in case that yellow flag comes out.
You got Cy Jones, Crivillo, and Randy Wall all about to go a lap down here. Robbie Nices has retired. I don't know if you covered that and I just missed it, but we are down
no,
to
I did not cover that. Nope.
37 cars on the racetrack now, 3 of which are a lap down and 3 more of which are about to go a lap down.
And those 3 will then be in a battle with, I believe, Brian Rawson. For being the first 2 cars 1 lap down. Bob Dixon, who is also a lap down, has lost touch with this lead group, and Bobby Farrell is still 1 lap down in the 92, and he is nowhere to be seen up here in this lead group either. So looks like it'll be Randy Waugh, Jeff Crivello, Cy Jones, and Brian Rawson that'll duke it out for the 2 lucky dog positions if we are to see a caution between now and the checkers.
And Rawson sits 10th, about 11th on the inside line behind all the leaders. So he's going to fly right. Actually, he's just going to pit now.
Yep, he is. This has to be unscheduled, I would think, right?
Well, he did pit a little early, but maybe he's not too concerned about getting a lap back, and he would rather just get the final pit stop out of the way because we are on 18 to go right now. Me personally, I would have waited until I absolutely had to, but I also can understand wanting to get that pit stop, that last pit stop out of the way.
Yeah, I think especially with the fact he was up in the lead pack, I would have stayed out until the absolute possible moment. I mean, he was going to be in the conversation to battle for one of the lucky dog positions, but we'll see. We'll see how this pans out for him. Uh,
As someone who has been a driver and gone back and watched many a JTN broadcast and heard what the broadcaster thinks someone says or does, I'm sure the driver has what would be to them a very reasonable explanation for pitting there.
yep.
But to us, we're like, "Oh, why'd you pit there? Like you should have just kept going until you had to pit."
Times you wish you were a fly on the wall of the pit box.
He is going to go 2 laps down now here.
But he has made effectively his final pit stop of the evening. Everybody else going to have to come to pit road one more time. More than likely for everybody, it's going to be in that neighborhood of about 5 or 6 laps to go.
Talk about drivers that are just outside of the top 12 in points. We got Mark Paglia running in 4th place, came into this race 18th in the standings. 7 points behind 12th in points, Glenn Harris. So right there, looking to have a really good run here if things continue the way they are going for him. It could potentially be in the fight for the win, of course, which would completely remove a lot of that points anxiety. But in a very good spot as far as points concerns go.
Now, I didn't see, outside of Chris Emery, any other driver get a penalty for speeding. But I have noticed that quite a number of drivers have fallen way, way back to the tail end of the lead lap. We saw Wiley
Rodney
Coate.
Sullins.
Yep,
Rodney Sullins is
was one
about
that
to go a
really
lap
jumped
down.
out to me. I'm not exactly sure what happened with him.
I thought he was packed up with somebody because I didn't see him by himself until now. We've got Tom Dixon, Graham McDonald, Mike Mangialardi, Wiley Coate, Chris Emery, who you mentioned had to serve that speeding penalty. And then there's another small pack behind the main pack. They are about 7.5 seconds out, with Billy Ellsor leading them.
And I believe Glenn Harris, that 12th position in points holder, is a part of that group.
Yes, he is. He is currently running 21st. So is it 1 point per position?
Yes, it is. Yep.
So that is a 17-point swing right now,
Oof.
which doesn't usually seem like a lot, but 40 car field, that's a lot.
This will be a little bit of a telltale sign. 38 right there, Rodney Sullins getting lapped. Let's see if he's able to latch onto this lead group. If he's not able to, then maybe something a little bit more untoward that we aren't sure about here with that Dale Sr. throwback. He's already losing touch with them there. Wasn't able to latch onto the draft.
He was doing, I think, about 180, 178, and they were going 200, and they just blew his doors off.
Now we're able to cover a lot of the green flag pit stops when they come to pit road. A lot of stuff will happen between the commitment line coming into pit road and the commitment line leaving pit road. So there may have been something that happened on pit lane for the 38 that led him to lose all of that ground. But the fact that we saw them kind of blow his doors off right there, I'm wondering if he's got some kind of damage there. I'm not exactly sure, but obviously not going to be a good night there for Rodney Sullins, who came into tonight's race just below that cut line, 1 point out of that cut line, 13th in the point standings. Another driver who's had a bit of an up and down season. You go back to Talladega, the season opener, he was leading an outside line, had a big run, might have been, if not in the conversation, might have been the winner of the season opener, and then the big one occurred and he got swept up in and finished outside of the top 20.
Yeah, he might have gotten damage in the first accident. I just went and looked at the last pit stop, and it looked like he came in with the pack and he came out with the pack, and he just hasn't had the pace since. So perplexing, to say the least.
Might have had maybe some lingering aero damage, and it didn't really stand out until he wasn't up in a lead group when things got split up with the green flag pit stop. As looks like the side-to-side gremlins have come back on the 24 of Joe DeSpirito, riding behind Grant Wesley. Grant so far has
Just
led
in time
14
for the
laps,
pit
about
stop.
to lead his 15th lap there. Donnie Garrett's led the most laps tonight so far at 21 circuits out in front. 9 laps
Donnie,
led for Randy Waugh, 4 laps led for Josh Metallic, and then everybody else that's led a lap, it's only been a single lap for them. Joe DeSpirito, Chuck McClure, Robert Breedlove, and Ulysses Sandoval.
Donnie Garrett also with our fastest lap on the race, a 47.187. That is the only lap time under a 47.2 tonight.
Whew. And that's either before, no, that would have been after.
I think that was when he was leading, no?
Yeah, I think, well, I don't know if it was when he was
Maybe
leading. I think
not.
the fastest lap he put down when he was leading was a 47.8, I think.
Ron Hagelin just pit, and he was hauling it in the pit road, man. I think he was doing like 100 at the line. Oh, he hit 56 there, I think. Oh, I think he hit 56 again. Oh, that might be all she wrote for the 111.
As long as he averages it out. If he can get it, if he can go to 56 and then go down to 54 or 53, he should be okay. We'll see. I mean, that's the money stop right there for the 111, and it's going to be the money stop for all these drivers here as well.
24.9, 45, 931, all pitting this time by. It's a can for sure.
A couple of drivers from the podium. Last week's winner, Brian Schilling in there.
Chuck McClure.
Oh, no. Into Paglia, Randy Waugh, Tim Knopfsker. Pit road is blockaded up, but again, it's off the racing surface. There's not going to be a yellow for it.
And that got compounded 10 times worse because the 45 was in his stall taking service, and Randy Waugh just spun it all around in the grass. Oh, no, I think he might call it a night.
No caution coming out here to save those drivers. Chuck McClure had that
Randy
runner-up
Waugh's
finish.
done.
Oh, man, tough break there for Randy, who was, I believe, prior to the pit stop, he was in one of the lucky dog positions.
I think he was trying to turn it around in the grass, and then it just started, the wheels started spinning on him. See if anyone stays out here. Greg Lovell is actually pitting here, so I don't believe.
Josh Metallic saves it.
What a save.
Woo!
What a save. The tires are lit up, but Greg Lovell not staying out another lap here, so I think everyone's going to be taking a can here.
We've got, I think, all of the drivers coming down pit road with that group that had stayed out the extra lap on the last cycle of pit stops.
Yep, so it's going to be a can for everyone. Everyone's going to be good on gas. There's going to be zero fuel concerns. It's going to be just go, 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 go. Get yourself a W, top 5, top 10, whatever you can get here.
Ooh, Grant Wesley might have been a little too good on pit road there. Look at the gap is going to be back from him to Palmer and Jeffries and others. They're going to get organized up, and Wesley might be the proverbial sitting duck.
DeSpirito might have enough to get him here anyway, though. They are coming there, 3-car group.
Shelton and Terry
Jessica
Bombard
Shelton
in that trio.
and Terry Bombard. I think these three are going to take the lead. The speed difference from Palmer to Wesley is about 7 miles an hour, and they're going to have to check up big time there with nowhere to go. Yeah, this is going to give the 24, 9, and the 10 top 3 positions.
Joe DeSpirito mentioned about the fact missed a couple of weeks. Nothing would help him more than a trip to victory lane. Then all he'd have to worry about is getting himself up into the top 20 in points. I mean, granted, though, we've talked about the fact that we're only 3 races into the season. Who knows? Maybe a victory with how close the points are could vault him up into the top 20 here tonight.
Shelton and Bombard, 2 other drivers, as some of the others that I was discussing before. Top 10 in the points coming into the race tonight, looking for another fantastic finish to bolster their point standings, as they have yet to win a race.
Lead pack's going to have 8 cars in it. You've also got the lap car of Mike Mangialardi trying to stay in touch. Second group back behind them, we're going to have to look and see what the speed difference is. That's Robert Breedlove leading that group. Mark Paglia and Denny Carroll, the lead lap cars here. They've also got the lap machine, the Batmobile number 45 of Tom Dixon, maybe the 36 of Crivello, and then
2/10 advantage to the 931, so they're closing.
They're also getting a little toe off the 029 of Mike Mangialardi here.
Graham McDonald's going to go a lap down here. We're going to have 5 laps to go this time by, Seth, which means if you get a caution, the race is going to end.
We have lap machines, so yep, that extra lap of caution.
Race back under caution here?
At 15 to go. So we've crossed that threshold as well.
Okay, so we've crossed that, yes. So once we hit 5 to go here with lap cars on the track, it is 100% certain that the race would end under yellow after we hit this point. So it is going to be checkers or wreckers here. 5 to go.
A lot of different scenarios up here in this lead group. You talked about Shelton and Bombard consistent in the points, but a win would lock them into the playoffs. DeSpirito down in the point standings looking for that victory. Check off that box and get in the top 20. Grant Wesley's been the most consistent driver here in the first 3 races, but he's still looking for his first checkered flag. And Jeremy Jeffries loves this racetrack. Multiple checkered flags here, including last season when he ended up winning the championship, and he's looking to be the first multi-time winner here in season 62.
How about Brian Lovell, 35th in the points coming into the race. Greg Palmer, 24th in the points. And Palmer gained 13 positions after last week's race, looking to maybe gain another 10 or so.
You've also got the Lovells lined up nose to tail there, Brian and Greg. So you got to think if the 043 steps out to make a move, the 0's going to go with him.
Breedlove has it down to 1.4 seconds, so I think that pack is going to catch. But now the leaders are catching a 3-car pack.
Oh, did Breedlove just blow up?
Cars.
The 931 just ducked down to the apron.
He is...
Speed's decreasing. I think he may have blown up.
It's running. It's running, though. Oh, now he put the clutch in.
No caution. I think he threw the clutch in so that way a caution wouldn't come out with him on the racing surface. I think we may have just had an engine failure for the 931, and that's going to hurt that momentum of that second group, though I think Paglia might still be in the draft there, as well as Tom Dixon and Denny Carroll. I think still, even because of the misfortune of Robert Breedlove, I think they'll still be up in this lead pack.
Lap cars are going to stay high here. Actually, Chris Emery's going to drop to the bottom. Oh, now he goes right back up to the wall.
Just getting a little toe there.
For a second, I was like, oh, what's he doing?
Well, if it holds true with what we've seen with the late race theatrics so far this season, those drivers up here about 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, they're not going to step out until the last lap here. And we're coming around to 2 laps to go. Oh, Brian Schilling going to go a lap down. Not sure what happened with that 4 unless he was involved in that stack up there coming to pit road entry. But last week's winner going to finish -1 here tonight.
Looks like the only other lap car they potentially will catch here is Rodney Sullins, as there's Jeremy Jeffries, first one to jump to the top.
Nothing to lose. He's already got that victory. Here comes Grant to the top.
They're going to leave Shelton on the bottom alone. Now a couple drivers going to go back to the bottom.
That's the Lovells. We're going to go 3 wide. Grant Wesley around the top. No drafting help. He's going to get left out to dry. Jeffries up the middle. That all worked out for DeSpirito. He'll keep the lead.
Joe had to figure out which lane to block, and I think it was, yep, just go to the bottom.
Will they get through the tri-oval? Flagman has the white flag in hand, ready to wave it over the number 24 of Joe DeSpirito. They've gotten to the line. We race back no matter what happens here. Jeffrey's still leading that middle line, but it doesn't look like the momentum's there.
Shelton's got the Lovell brothers on her bumper. If Greg gets clear here, will they jump to the top in front of Jeffries?
Looked like they shaded up there, but nothing yet. Now here goes Brian to the top.
Oh,
Greg,
not quite clear for Greg. It's going to kill a lot of momentum.
Stifled that momentum in that middle line.
Not sure if Shelton's going to have anywhere to go with our run here. It might be all Despirito.
Well, Shelton finished runner-up here 2 weeks ago to Chris Emery. Might be finishing runner-up again as Joe Despirito stays to the inside line, and he's going to go to victory lane here tonight. Fourth different winner on the season, third former champion to win here in season 62, and that's going to be a huge shot for a driver that missed a couple of races in the early going of this season. Had that checklist, which I'm sure victory lane was at the very top of it, and he's going to pick up the victory tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway.
Great finish for Jessica Shelton, who came in 7th in the point standings, knocks up a top 3 result here. And Brian Lovell, who came in 35th in the points, he lost 12 positions last week. He's likely going to get those back and maybe a couple more.
Back-to-back runner-up finishes for Jessica Shelton here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway in season 62. And Joe Despirito, that new paint scheme, going to come down here to the start-finish line for the first time this season. The multi-time champion will get to burn it down.
Well, Seth, it ended up being that the 3-way tie for 30th. The last one standing was all the luck you needed. The other two had all the bad luck.
So now I'm not sure what to think about the number 30.
33% chance success rate. Got Greg Lovell 4th in his debut.
Great job for him. Jeremy Jeffries probably gunning for that regular season championship. Would love to get those bonus points. Was 8th in the standings coming into tonight. Finishes out the top 5.
Terry Bombard in 6th. Greg Palmer, Mark Paglia, Grant Wesley, Denny Carroll round out the top 10. So we had the whole top 10 there in the lead draft. That was very unfortunate, though, for Robert Breedlove.
Yes.
Actually going down is no fuel. I'm curious if maybe he tried taking half a can and he ran out because it sounded like his car was under power.
And Joe Despirito, he's been doing this the last couple of seasons, the reverse burnout.
I love this. I'll tell you what, I've done a ton of burnouts in my time on the sim, and I always tell myself I should do a reverse burnout, and then I just forget to do it. So this is really cool to see, and this might make me have to remember now.
Well, big weight
like a
off
circus act.
Big weight off his shoulders, obviously, as we mentioned, with his point situation. Now all he's just got to worry about is getting back up into the top 20 in points, which he may do after tonight. We'll have to see when everything is calculated. But now he's got 4 more races to work with, and we're going to continue the reverse burnout here.
Looking at the points, I think the highest finishing driver ahead of him, 10 positions in the 10 positions ahead of him, was Greg Palmer. And then the next one after that was Mark Paglia. So I think he's going to gain a good bit of positions here. I think he should be top 20.
Well,
good odds, I'd say, depending on how the math works out.
Well, you ran us down through the top 10. They're all finishing up in the lead pack. Tim Knopfsker, Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett. They didn't have enough time to be able to make anything happen to get up there. Ran out of laps. But they're going to finish up inside of the top 15. Jerm Lewis and Bob Seminara in 14th and 15th. Josh Metallic, we saw him trying to latch on to the tail end of that lead group after the pit stop cycle, was unable to do it, and actually fell back almost to the tail end of the second pack. He'll finish 16th with Bernie Mobbs in 17th. Mobbs has had a good start to the year, and we'll bump on the road tonight for the 31. Ron Hagelin, Richard Martin, Billy Ellis are the top 20, and Doug Kulik was the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Chris Emery with the speeding penalty. First car 1 lap down. Graham McDonald. Glenn Harris, who came in that critical 12th position in points, 24th. Tom Dixon. Brian Schilling. I can't remember if he was in that whole stack up when McClure had the contact on pit road or not, but he finishes a lap down there. The former winner on the season, 26th. Sandoval in 27th. Bob Dixon, Jeff Corbell, Mike Mangialardi, the top 30. Rawson, Jones, Farrell, Wiley Coat, Rodney Sullins, all off the lead lap, but finished under power. You documented Breedlove there. No fuel for him. 36th, and then Randy Waugh, Robbie Nisus, Milt Surratt, and John Godfrey failed to make it to the conclusion. We mentioned about the fact that the top of the night, A lot of different drivers with a lot of different agendas, and here tonight with a full 40 car field, going to be a lot of different agendas to kick off the second half of the regular season next week at Talladega.
Yeah, and good thing Chris Emery got that win 2 races ago. Seth came in fifth in the points tonight, but that speeding penalty, based on where he was running, if he didn't have it, was roughly a net loss of about 15 points. So already has a ton of points and he has the win. So not a huge loss here for that team tonight. But gonna want to maybe be a little careful and not get another speeding penalty these next 2, 3 races.
Definitely something that he'll be able to work on in preparation for when the playoffs begin. Well, you talked about the fact that he came in 35th in the point standings. Really needed something good to happen here tonight. And Brian Lovell brings it home in the third position here this evening. Let's see if we can dial him up.
User was
Hey,
moved to
Brian,
your
it's Zach and
channel.
Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, man, how's it going?
A great run for you here tonight. Executed on pit road all evening long. Most importantly, on that final pit stop. So up there in the lead pack in the closing stages. Believe you were sitting about the fifth or sixth position there with about 5 laps to go. We saw you picking up some spots there. Anything else you could have done to get up to P1? Because a lot of blocks taking place, a lot of drivers shuffling from different lanes. Looked like you had to keep the momentum up, or else if you lost that momentum, you were going to go backwards.
Yeah, I moved to the outside lane or the middle lane, and my brother moved with me, and he kind of bumper grabbed a little bit, and we had it planned to try to finish. One of us get the win, but it doesn't always work out that way. But all in all, man, it was a fun race.
Yeah, we saw that really long green flag run there, Brian, with 2 green flag pit stops. Walk me through your approach going into pit road under green flag scenarios and trying to get the most out of the entrance.
I usually don't hot pit, and I know a lot of other guys do, but to me, it's safer just because you really don't gain much. You might gain a couple tenths of a second or something. Plus, you take a chance on getting a black flag. So I just, try to watch everybody around me and try to avoid anything happening in front of me and do 54, 55 miles an hour. I usually run first gear down pit road and seldom ever get black flags. But the back to the pitting thing, we usually Big Stone Gap Racing uses a strategy most of the time, and we kind of got off tilt a little bit there, but we finished top 10.
Yeah, Zach and I were talking about, especially at the beginning of the night, the fact 40 car field, still very early on in the season. A lot of opportunity here tonight with a good finish to gain a ton of spots in the point standings. You jump up 10 spots to 25th in overall points here with 4 races remaining. So you've got half the regular season under your belt, 4 more races until we put the playoff grid together. Where is your mentality now as opposed to the beginning of the season? Are you still looking for the victory? Are you looking for consistency here to get up into the top 12 in the point standings? How much of a difference is there from the start of the season to now?
Well, the start of the season was kind of rocky. I had one win that it was better than the qualifying position, and then the other one wasn't so much. And I'm just trying to not cause any cautions and not go plowing up into cautions. And I think that if you can stay on the lead lap, you have a chance. Somebody's going to end up working with you.
Well, Brian, a great run for you here tonight. As mentioned, jumping up there in the point stands, good chunk of positions gained. Got some good consistency heading into some good momentum heading into that second half of the regular season. We head to Talladega next week. Job well done here tonight in the conversation for that win. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
Yeah, like to thank RTG for all that hard work they've done all these years. And you guys in the booth do an awesome job. Can't speak highly enough about you. And I'd like to give a shout out to Big Stone Gap Racing and Wolfpack Racing as well. And I wish everybody good luck during the season, and I hope that I just keep climbing higher and try to get in the top 10.
Well, he's climbing for sure. Now 25th in overall points, up 10 positions from where he started off the night here at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Third place finish here tonight for Brian Lovell. Congratulations once again. Best of luck here in these final 4 races of the regular season.
Man, I appreciate you. And you guys, you're the greatest, man.
Well, appreciate it. That's Brian Lovell. Puts it on the podium here
User was moved out
tonight.
of your channel.
Marks his best finish since last week when he was just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Doesn't look like we have our second place finisher, Jessica Shelton, available for an interview. She ends up moving up 2 spots in points to 5th in overall standings, 26 points out of the points lead. And another driver that gained a ton tonight is the guy who went to victory lane. Let's see if we can dial up the driver, the number 24, Joe DeSpirito.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Joe,
your
it's Zach
channel.
and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hey guys, I got you.
Well, I kind of feel like it's a tale of 2 seasons, right? Last year, it seemed like we were talking to you every week. You had that streak of top 5 finishes during the regular season. We didn't see you in the season opener here this season. You had a very good reason for that. But then back-to-back finishes outside of the top 20. Can't believe this is the first top 5 for you here in season 62, but it's a big one. You're now locked into the playoffs because it looks like you've also gained 12 spots and stands up to 19th. So currently in position for a postseason berth.
Yes. Yep. Well, last season didn't end too well, so maybe I need to play it this way from now on. But yeah, you miss the first race and you fall behind in points, and you're just trying to play catch up a little bit, and you have a little hiccup here and there after that, and you're really falling behind. So yeah, I got to win, lock myself in, and just continuously get some more bonus points and stay in that top 20.
Joe, we saw when we were getting close to our first green flag pit cycle, there's always the talk of the commentators jinx, and well, it looked like the jinx was about to occur because we saw your car start to do the old shaky shaky. Can you walk us through like how nervous that can be when internet issues can start to occur and you're all up in the pack going 199?
Yeah, they were doing some digging in my neighborhood. We got a new internet service provider coming in, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. But I was getting, um, they were telling me over TeamSpeak that I was shaking a little bit and that it wasn't too bad. But I heard I blinked a couple times. But yeah, it's nothing really you can do. You just kind of cross your fingers that it kind of slows down, and worked out to where I guess it wasn't too bad. Of course, I can't see it, but I hear about it. And yeah, I've dealt with internet issues the last couple of years with my internet. So worked out though. Just got the win.
Well, we've seen this season when it comes down to the closing stages. I feel like we overuse the word execution. Now, the last couple of races, it's been execution on final restarts, whether it be a green white checkered or a 1 lap shootout. Here tonight, it was about execution on that final pit stop. You come down pit road about a lap sooner than most of the other drivers. You had that momentum being up to speed to get up to the race lead. But I want you to walk us through those final couple of laps there because there was a point down the back straightaway. I think you had Grant to your outside, you had somebody to your inside, you were in the proverbial sucker hole. Now, granted, the circumstances worked out that you were able to clear both lines, get back to lead going into turn 3, but was there at any point there down that backstretch that you were thinking, man, this thing's slipping away from me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Once I saw Grant pull out, I was like, well, they probably have the numbers now. So then I went up to block it, and then I'm watching it as we're speaking here, and it looked like he went 3 wide, Grant, and nobody went with him. So then I jumped back down to the middle. I mean, I jumped back down to the bottom and committed back down to the bottom. And yeah, Jessica was pushing me hard, and the bottom just stayed strong after that. But once I saw Grant go up, I thought I thought that was it. But I blocked it in time, and he made a move, and nobody went with him. So now it worked out.
Worked out indeed. You lock yourself into the playoffs here with this victory here tonight. Last couple of weeks, we've not only been treated to exciting finishes, but some cool victory celebrations as well. We saw the long trial burnout from Schilling last week. Tonight, we got treated to your reverse burnout there on the front straightaway. Obviously, got to be a huge weight off your shoulders as well, getting that box checked for a checkered flag, and now you can try and get yourself up there higher in the point standings, get those bonus points at the end of the regular season, looking for another championship here in this series. But I know you want to get back to your celebrating, Joe. Before you do, we're handing the microphone over to you for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shout outs.
Oh, absolutely. Real quick before I go in my usual here, I want to thank Jessica for sticking with me and pushing me hard there at the end. She did a good job tonight, so I want to thank her for that. I want to thank RTG, of course, Josh, being a great admin on Thursdays. Um, FRN, you guys do a great job. Seth, of course. Um, Jason Sheck and 260 Motorsports for sponsoring us, I believe, this season and last season. Race LM for sponsoring us. I want to thank Mobs Motors and Bernie for painting me my cars every season. I'm back in black this season. Thank my sponsors, Old City Fly Shop, oldcityflyshop.com, Able Reels, and my everybody watching at home, my dad, Uncle Travis, LC, Dan, and everybody at work. Thanks, guys.
Joe DeSpirito, fourth different winner on the season, as he takes the checkered flag here tonight at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations once again. Best of luck here down the home stretch as you look to increase your positioning in the point standings, already knowing that you're going to be battling in this season's playoffs.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Joe
User
DeSpirito
was moved
with
out
the
of your channel.
victory, and that's going to bring our coverage to a close here tonight. Zach, it's interesting because I remember last week when we talked with the runner-up finisher at Talladega, Chuck McClure, he said he could kind of sense that there was a feeling of desperation for a number of drivers out there. Here tonight, we ended up seeing a couple of early yellows, but then we saw things kind of trend more towards green flag pit stops. We obviously saw it come down really to who executed the best on that final pit stop of the evening. Do you think as we're starting to progress closer towards the halfway point and down this home stretch of the regular season, the desperation is now kind of backing off just a little bit, drivers kind of putting into perspective what kind of a scenario they need to be able to get into the playoffs and realizing, you can't win the race on lap one, you can certainly lose it. We've got to at least get ourselves towards the second half of this race before we start to strategize where we got to be in order to get ourselves into the postseason.
Yeah, I would say for sure. And I feel like our moment of desperation tonight was the main group making their final pit stop where we saw calamity ensue. And that took a bunch of those drivers out of a chance to win. I believe Joe and I think it was Jessica and Terry Bombard, I think, were maybe the only three that drove away from that incident and didn't lose time. So I think they definitely had to be smarter tonight. As we look at the point standings, they have updated. The gap now from 20th to 30th in points is 33 points. So if you are 30th or worse right now, you're gonna have to win for sure. We saw that only give Brian 10 positions, so Brian is still 11 points out of the top 20. So as much as the points are close, they are starting to spread out a bit more. So you have to pick and choose your moments of aggression, especially now 4 races down, 4 races to go.
With what we saw here tonight, obviously I mentioned about the fact that this is where the regular season finale is going to take place. Ultimately, it's where the championship is going to be decided in the second of the 2 final round races. Was this an area, do you think, for drivers that came into this race below the cut line and may still leave here below the cut line to do a little bit of experimentation if they find themselves maybe in a must win situation in about a month's time?
Yeah, it definitely won't hurt because you're already in the hole. If you dig the hole deeper, at least you tried to dig yourself out of it.
Well, Joe DeSpirito at least has kind of thrown the rope up out of the hole and is beginning the climb as he gets not only the victory tonight, but he's up into the top 20 in the point stand, so currently in possession of a playoff spot. Again, as mentioned, his first top 5, his first top 10 on the season for the multi-time former champion, but he joins Brian Schilling, Chris Emery, and the defending champion Jeremy Jeffries, now currently locked into a playoff position with wins here in season 62. We'll have to see if this streak continues. Maybe we go 5 for 5 next week at Talladega, as we now have 4 races remaining until we put the playoff grid together. But Zach, thrilled to have you here in the booth here tonight. Great to have you for your very first time here in the FRN studios. And man, heck of a race for us to be able to call here tonight. Appreciate you joining me this evening.
Yes, indeed, it was a great time, and the longer the race went, the more comfortable I felt I got. I felt a little bad trying to talk over you though, but sometimes I felt like, man, am I gonna get to talk? Like he just keeps going. He's like a V8 motor.
I've said this to all the co-commentators. I'd rather have you talk over me than not talk at all. So you're perfectly fine. We appreciate everybody that tuned into our coverage here tonight as well. Hope that you guys enjoyed. We will see you guys next week as we head back to the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway. We'll give you the fallout of what happened here from our first round of the bracket series as well. Obviously, a lot of drivers could be moving on. A lot of drivers eliminated and moving down to the loser side of the bracket. They still got a chance, if they're able to advance to the loser side of the bracket, to be able to face off against the eventual winner on the winner side of the bracket, but that'll be much further on down the road towards the end of the season. And our next time that we come to you will be next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to continue on the 62nd season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. But once again, appreciate y'all joining us here tonight. Congratulations to Joe DeSpirito on his victory at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. For Zach Rogers, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.